This place is like somebody's memory of a town, and the memory's fading. It's like there was never anything here but jungle.
Episode 1's titled The Long, Bright, Dark. What it describes is we're in a place of high spirituality and incendiary sunshine. Within this landscape and this bright, bright environment exists darknesses. The same way we're establishing Cole and Hart with as much nuance as possible as dimensional human beings, we want to establish this landscape as realistically as we can, not only on its own, but in a background for our main characters as something they live in and that affects them and surrounds them. And so I think what you begin to take away from it is a sense of the economic scale, a sense of the importance of religious spirituality.
That tree where we shot the crime scene is on a real cane plantation, real farm, an active one. The tree on its own is a very stark, evocative image just based on the simplicity of the lines and then the focus of the tree.
Symbolically, it has many forms because its features mirror so many forms. It's the fountain of life, the branching veins and capillaries. It's what the human nervous system and all our arteries look like. So the tree itself is iconic. A lot of those symbols, they carry historical and anthropological significance beyond what is on the surface of our narrative.
Hey. Oh. Dreamer.
Why are you out here, huh? Why didn't you come to bed?
Marty has a family that we already see from the first episode he's not able or possibly willing to give more time to.
There probably is a general unhappiness. I think in Maggie, it's a sadness. It's a nostalgia from the past, hoping that maybe it's just this case, and after this next case, everything will be okay.
We get a picture of what Marty's life looks like, and in Cole's reaction to Marty's life, we get a picture of what Cole's life looks like.
You don't drink with me or the boys. And you gotta get a load on before you visit my family.
I didn't mean to.
The drinking was a way to cope with the fear he probably had inside himself of what it was going to be like, not only to face the children and also meeting his wife and being evaluated and studied in that sense. I think what at least allows him to stay is that it wasn't as bad as he thought it was going to be, along with Maggie engaging him in a way that he hadn't been engaged by Hart, asking questions about himself and forcing him to answer with honesty.
Baby, trust me, you do not want to pick this man's brain.
This is gonna happen again. This kind of thing does not happen in a vacuum.
I don't think either of them have ever come upon a crime scene like this before, so their approaches in terms of how to handle it, I think Hart goes back to the book. By following the steps, he feels certain they'll get to the murderer, and Cole is more based on instinct and about psychological behavior. Cole also runs on a more hyperactive brain.
Which, to people not so inclined towards those types of perceptions, would tend to be unsettling.
Okay, what's that mean?
Means I'm bad at parties.
Let me tell you, you ain't great outside of parties either.
It sets a kind of tone for the contradiction of both the men in this series as they begin as partners, and the monologues allowed by them in 2012, I think, give you a clear idea not only of who those men are now, but the sort of narrative you're going to watch, which in some ways is the story of how they got to be who they are in 2012.
We're not stepping on your toes, Marty. We just got the mandate. We got to compare notes with what you got.
Yeah.
Here, you want detective?
No. Thanks, Kathleen.
You got it.
Xerox all you want. Make you feel like a good cop.
Part of the reason for the pace of the investigation up till now is that this is how real police cases work. They last for weeks, and then they last for years.
When we see Cole and Hart's mourning process in context of their investigation, it's to show both the passage of time, but this case is not just, going from the red in 4 or 5 days, that it's also taking place while they're living.
Seeing things is something a detective is supposed to do, obviously, and scrutinizing detail. Every episode is going to have revelations, and things will move forward. But I want our revelations to be matched by the revelations we observe in character.
Kind of strange. Like you might be dangerous.
Of course I'm dangerous. I'm police. I can do terrible things to people with impunity.
So we learn about Cole's history. You get a fairly full accounting and where he came from that on the surface might not explain but illuminate some of his more misanthropic tendencies.
Your mom's still alive?
Maybe.
And we learn a lot about Marty's other life.
When he's forced to be the family man, I think he's internally suffering.
I come home to one place where there's supposed to be peace and calm, and you throw this
Who
shit.
told you that? It's not always that way. It's not supposed to be.
It's supposed to be what I want.
You get a sense of what he thinks a family is supposed to serve and the sense it's supposed to serve him.
Hart has an environment which provides him boundaries and rules. Cole has really no restrictions on his life.
By pulling himself away from society, Cole has a much more clear sense of his place in the world and what he doesn't want to do.
And yet he adheres to a very strict code. He believes his redemption lies in countering the world and not averting his eyes. And I think the reasons they're at odds are more nuanced than what we've seen before. It's giving you a familiar trope. Two cops don't exactly get along, fairly new partners, working a big case. But the reasons they don't get along, I think, are very particular to these particular individuals. This is the way these men process the world and deal with things.
Maybe we got started on the wrong foot there.
McConaughey did a lot of work beforehand. He had a ton of ideas. And so what you imagine in your head with a written character and then when someone embodies it and owns it is always going to be slightly different. But I had complete faith that whatever he was doing was true to the character.
I mean, I could always tell what was real or what wasn't, you know. So when I'd see things, and I just roll with it.
The mirror came about through McConaughey. He said there's this mirror, and the mirror is looking in one eye, and it forces you to stare at yourself without the hole, but just the eyes. And that little mirror is just an odd, uncanny detail that people can choose to note, or you just can go right by it. The way Woody approaches projects, there's a sense of exploration that allow for a little bit of humor, which is one of the things he really wanted to add to his role and to the general show.
Ruined me. Now I can't do that.
We're left at the end investigatively with the idea that there are signs literally littering the landscape that bear the mark of the man they're looking for.
It was all the same dream, a dream that you had inside a locked room. A dream about being a person.
So the locked room refers to a type of mystery that seems on the surface insoluble. And that definition of the locked room translates into Cole's metaphysical digressions, which is that your life is what you experience, and more than that, it's what you think of what you've experienced. And all that takes place inside your head, and your head is a locked room. No one will ever walk in this head and live in this room and see the things that person did. It specifically involves being able to hold two contradictory ideas in equal measure. And so Cole says, you just got to be honest what goes on in here in the locked room.
I think there's a kind of absolutism to the way Cole talks about his philosophies, and whether it be about religion or anything else. It's a kind of absolutism that proves there's like a much darker abyss beneath that.
And in his search for how to live and not finding much meaning in the company of others, he turned to philosophy and he turned to spiritual texts. He just doesn't believe it, but I think he believes in the power of transcendence, and I think that's what he's often speaking toward.
What to say about life?
I'm not sure whether Cole is agnostic or atheist, but he's somewhere in between the two. He's definitely doesn't subscribe to any religion.
For a guy who sees no point in existence, you sure fret about it an awful lot.
Hart, he's probably some sort of agnostic Christian in the sense that he believes in it as a community ritual. I'm not sure if he necessarily follows the rules of the faith. He makes excuses for himself.
The very sermon that Cole is critiquing, he employs all the same tactics in his interrogations.
It's not your fault. It's not. He was drugged to the bottom by that same weight.
Offering a cathartic narrative. As Cole says, everybody knows there's something wrong with them. All you gotta do is address that hole and watch them talk. Everybody wants to confess.
Get out of here.
Is that all you got
Stop.
for me?
Go home. I don't want this anymore.
You got that little shitbird in here?
Go away. I'll call the cops.
Well, let's see how that works
I know
out
other
for you.
cops.
Okay.
A man who says rules are good, we witness breaking not just his marital rules, but the rules of personal space.
Ow! Get off! Get off!
You know, in episode 1, we had Cole saying, I'm not some kind of maniac. And in this episode, we have Hart saying, I'm not a psycho. It's one of those things that if you have to tell people, it's probably not true. We see right away that Marty's family is having a humanizing effect on Cole's character. He's chatting comfortably about himself, and he's watching those little girls. And Marty, who hasn't been home with the family, while he was away doing God knows what, another man mowed his yard.
What the hell do you think you're doing, man? At my house when I'm not here?
So you're watching some kind of territorial dispute that has deep psychological underpinnings, but on the surface is almost comedic effect. What am I gonna do, admit to jealousy over my lawn? For the first time, it looks like we have a hard suspect. That image I actually got from my head from paintings which showed plague doctors in medieval Europe, and they had those very strange long masks. It was before gas masks, but they made them look like wasps. And we leave them in episode 3 with a very definite direction and a man to capture.
He was a big guy. A lot bigger than you. But you tell me you didn't get along?
No, I mean, I did. Most part, you got to. You're sharing a house, like I'm saying. I mean, it gets you high, man, but he's creep. I ain't want to know him.
Tell me about Ledoux.
The title has reference to areas of law enforcement, and that who goes there is the famous long-standing sentries call, the guardsman's call, who goes there. This episode, if it has a unified theme, it would be identity and the masks people can wear. We both see Hart's double life revealed and exploding in his face, and then he has to lead a different kind of life as he's kicked out by his wife and living basically with Cole.
I love you, honey. I ain't giving up.
Marty's obviously going through his own personal crisis, and the work at this point is something that can keep him afloat.
And when the two men join up, there's a sort of passing of the baton that occurs, where now the narrative is going to go mostly towards Cole, whereas in the first half, the narrative was mostly Hart.
Cole sort of takes lead, at least in this element of getting Ledoux into custody. And I think that Marty agrees with them that if they were to go about this the normal way, there's no way they'd find him or get to him.
Cole has to adopt his old undercover identity that he had before he joined State CID in order to get close to a motorcycle gang that their suspect, Reggie Ledoux, deals meth for.
Hey, get a line on their supplier. Confirm it's Ledoux. Bring him in.
In order to do this, Cole has to once again transgress the laws of man in order to serve a higher moral function. So he steals cocaine from the evidence locker, and if that looked too easy, it was that easy back then.
They really should have a better system for this.
So he goes along, hoping, like any decent guy in his position, to mitigate the damage and to snatch his man away as soon as he can.
You got my word. You back me on this, I back you.
The first thing I saw in the stash house sequence was a moment of real-time action taking place over like 10 to 15 pages. Usually we're jumping around in time or jumping backward and forward in time. So knowing that we were going to be locked into this moment, it was the perfect opportunity to just run one long take where a lot of things are happening, a lot of variables are at play.
We follow Cole in a one-take gauntlet through the projects, dodging cops, dodging armed clockers, dodging gunfire.
The process of walking through it and all the extras in the background and all the things that are happening was actually pretty wild and hard to manage. So we had maps drawn, like I had maps drawn on the path, where these things were going to happen so everyone could look at it from a top down, understand how this whole choreography was going to play out. You get that many people all together at once, reenacting essentially a riot, anything could go wrong. Even if we already know that Cole survived because we've been seeing him in 2012 interrogations, it was extremely important that the tension is maintained throughout. so that as an audience, you're able to experience whatever fear he might be having at that moment, but also experience the consequences of that decision.
Shit. You visited a lot of gun shows?
It's just some stuff I kept in case some work came back on me.
The interesting moment, too, is trying to figure out what to put in that locker that felt real and didn't feel like we were just trying to make him look like he was some kind of action hero in his previous life, but somebody who lived a kind of existence that had been shut away but not completely forgotten.
And that's our first clue that this man used to be something else. In this sense, the identity we see Cole take on, in some way it's like we're seeing the man in his element for the first time. He knows he's gonna have to do drugs in order to be with these guys. They're gonna test him. They test him, so he does them. And we see how far Cole is willing to go. And so, while we did not fully catch up to the monster, we end with Hart and Cole fleeing the scene of the stash house robbery, even as the Beaumont police converge and firefight breaks out. And Cole's managed to kidnap Ginger, his contact, who is going to have to lead him to Reggie Ledoux.
I tell it the same way that I told the shooting board in every cop bar between Houston and Biloxi. And you know why the story's always the same, 17 years gone? Because it only went down the one way.
Episode 5, The Secret Fate of All Life. We learn one of the things that the series has been hinting at throughout, which is that what you're saying happened and what happened is not the same thing.
We had the opportunity for the unreliable narrator, where Hart and Cole's version of the story, both in 2012 and to the shooting board, was grossly different from what actually happened.
It's chaos.
When Hart walks up and opens that door, I just wanted to put them in silhouette. And it's just enough to see, you just kind of see the little girl's eyes. She doesn't know whether the person opening this door is another nightmare or someone coming to rescue her. And I think it hits Hart immediately, having his own daughters, and this need to protect children supersedes any sort of protocol in terms of being a police officer. And so he does what instincts tell him to do at that moment in time and exacts revenge. I think Cole, for his part, it's just as profound, but maybe not as emotionally resonant on the surface.
I don't even view Cole and Hart as anti-heroes. I don't think there's any anti about them. I think they're both heroes.
I believe I speak for the board when I commend you on the heroism displayed by you and Detective Hart.
We were doing our job, sir.
There's definitely that moment, whatever conflict they've had, when Hart looks up at Cole, that decision, that bond, that partnership is solidified in that instant. Cole's willing to support him, all the way to make sure he doesn't get in trouble for it.
Bullshit. You tell me right now why you're all over Cole, or I'll walk.
Marty is well aware at this point they're trying to stick this new thing on Cole.
The evidence is compelling to the degree that we have to admit sometimes that, somebody may not be who we think they are. So I don't think he's on the detective's side, but he's not ready to leave yet.
I think Hart is able to separate whatever personal animosity he has for Cole, and whatever resources he has, he's going to defend Cole, whether he likes him or not, because that's the right thing to do.
Well, if you two talked to Russ, you weren't getting a read on him. He was getting a read on you.
When Cole sees the full discovery file, and he sees how little these guys have, he's like, well, you just wasted my day.
This is all you got.
And what that means for us is that Cole had come in here solely to find out what they had on the new case. And if we reach back from episode 1, that's been there the whole time. He's been asking them about Lake Charles the whole time. He's been wanting to see their folders the whole time. He's let himself speak profusely without giving them any new information. And I don't know how many people will catch this, but Cole asked for a beer for one reason, because he's a functioning alcoholic who knows who he is. But the bigger reason is that once he starts drinking, anything he says in that room's inadmissible.
He's conflict-oriented, so when I deny him small arguments, it builds up his energy.
Wow. Yeah. Are you ever a match for this dude?
As we pass through 1995 to 2002, we get tastes of Hart's family life, and we get tastes of Cole in the meantime.
And it sort of underlines the rest of the episode, the relationships they have and the lives they build around it. halfway through the season, halfway through the episode, we solve a case. So what does that mean? How do you then bridge ourselves into the next part of the story?
It appears that the man or one of the men from 95 is still active. And the idea to Cole that he didn't finish a job that he said he finished, and that this has caused more people harm, the possibility of it causes him to once again step over the line that he established in his own personal code. So what you thought was over isn't over. As Cole says, there's no escape.
Badge and gun, Cole. You're suspended. 1 month without pay. Repeated rank insubordination. Misallocation departmental resources.
Come on.
Leroy, come on, that's over the top.
I told you both. Cut the shit. It's done. Badge and gun, Cole.
The title Haunted Houses refers to, in a sense, that by the end of this show, there's a significant element of real-world horror in it. But if we go back to the idea of a locked room and that everyone's life exists in their own interiority, everyone's a house, that's not a far jump from a locked room. Well, maybe you have several rooms inside your bigger locked room. Now we're looking at why these houses are so haunted in 2012. Hart and Cole, what did happen there?
I'm the only one ever took up for you.
Nobody without me. There is no you.
Cole is soon after suspended and continues to work the case on his own, but with a lot more leeway for drinking booze because he's not on the job anymore. Meanwhile, on Marty's sort of parallel track, he's not having the best time at home. He doesn't have the closest relationship with the women in his life.
So is my eldest still offended by my presence?
That's a haunted house. If we look at these people as houses full of rooms, and the overall narrative itself as a house full of rooms, I think we see that Hart is showing the extremity of his haunt.
In a former life, I used to exhaust myself navigating crude men who thought they were clever. So ask your questions or I'm leaving.
That kind of no-nonsense defines Maggie, I think, in a consistent way throughout the story. I think she's definitely the most emotionally intelligent character in terms of knowing herself and knowing where her husband's at and knowing and being able to decide priorities and what's important.
Maggie knows now that he has been unfaithful again. And I think if that's ever happened before and you catch someone again, then you begin to wonder about the entire period between when you took them back. This convinces Maggie to do something drastic.
So you, waiting for someone?
No.
I think she's testing herself. It's not as much about, well, Hart's messing around, I'm gonna mess around. I think it's more about what can she do to drive Hart away? Because her leaving the first time didn't work. He just held on to her even tighter. She needed to do something that would destroy his trust for her and maybe even make her seem completely disgusting to him so that he would leave her and the family alone again.
Sit down.
Okay.
It's almost self-sacrificial in that sense, rather than any form of validating her sexuality. She's much more intelligent than that. And that's why ultimately she settles on Cole, because he knows that he wouldn't be able to recover from that.
It was rust.
I indict Hart for getting her so broken that she violated certain tenets of her own humanism.
It's one of those things that just happens in life. You have your trajectories and sometimes you grow with people and then something drives you apart. Neither person's willing to repair that distance.
It's coming from my files, Marty.
Cole's the guiltiest man in the world because he sees us as all responsible for every one of our actions. And in the beginning, you can see Cole seems to sort of be letting himself get hit, and he wants that. He wants penance.
We choreographed the whole thing, we broke it into like sections, but the day we were actually shooting it, Matthew planned a kind of surprise for Hart when he was showing up on set. He had the sound guys with a speaker set up with the Rocky theme. So when Hart showed up, they started playing the music really loud. And instead of like fake fighting then, they danced with each other in a sort of tango. It was probably just to express to each other just before they beat the shit out of each other, how much they love each other.
Marty?
Rushed.
Long time.
So we learn why Cole and Hart split in 2002, Cole's renewed investigation, is completely stonewalled and knocked out of his hands. Maggie and Marty, we learn the reason for their divorce definitively. And finally, we end the episode knowing now the present-day incarnations of these men reunite.
You gotta come see what I got.
No, you know what? I don't think I've been very clear with you, Russ. If you were drowning, I'd throw you a barbell. Why would I ever help you?
Episode 7, After You've Gone, is the title of a famous Torch song. And Torch songs have always had an historical place in noir and pulp. And it also describes the men who they became after each one left their lives and how they're going to continue.
You look like you're doing all right.
Father Time has his way with us all.
Hart is reluctant to believe him or help him, given their history. But as Cole puts it, you have a debt.
They didn't finish the job. That's the bottom line. They let their emotions get the better of them, and they didn't get the information they needed to make sure that everything was accounted for.
We left something undone. We gotta fix it.
On a very understandable level, this idea that he could still be killing is a real threat. They need to finish their job, with or without the help of state CID. It's sort of a monumental task in the sense they don't have all the resources they used to have. Clearly, they're more at risk as well. They're not young guys anymore. And using force and coercion to get some information, I think that's just those guys being them.
So, the band's back together, and it's 2012, and we're going to at least attempt to get to the bottom of this.
There's a videotape.
I had to shoot the Marie Fontenot sequence on my own because it was the space and how we were moving around this altar. Couldn't really have a whole crew in there with this. So just literally me with the Betacam on my shoulder.
And it's a video that shows the girl that went missing in 1990 in a child sacrifice conducted in some kind of pagan animalistic ritual. And we only show a glimpse of that. And something this show has tried really hard to do is, despite the darkness of the subject matter, is to never bludgeon the viewer with something that's just gross. I'm not very interested in gore.
You shouldn't have that.
Nobody should have this.
For me, it's more important that you see the reaction on Marty's face as he views the video. And having seen the video, no! Marty can no longer deny that Cole is clearly correct about something going on.
Why'd you quit, Marty? What's the real reason? What happened?
I thought I never wanted to look at anything like that anymore.
In addition to reopening this case, it gives us a chance to watch the men become reacquainted.
There's probably just the natural curiosity of talking to this guy that you've had it out with. You see that a lot of times in war, veterans getting together from both sides, and a lot of the animosity is just gone, despite the fact that in the moment they could have been willing to kill each other.
How you been? You know, besides work.
Oh, sorry, I don't ever remember you asking me a personal question before.
I think it's right there almost that Cole missed him in some way. And we learn about what their individual tragedies are, which is their isolation. They both say, and it strikes me as very poignant, the way the guys deliver it is, I go home. What do you do? I go home.
Missing persons, mostly, maybe far back as the 80s.
Well, anything before 05 that never became part of an official investigation, it isn't going to be in the computers.
They sort of switch places in this episode compared to who they historically were. Suddenly, Hart's the leg man.
Thank you.
Scouring the archives for paperwork, doing all the one-on-ones with people. And Cole's sort of guiding him a little bit, but Hart proves himself a very effective investigator. So we end with the 2012 investigation by Hart and Cole, taking them into a dangerous area and threatening a sheriff with a gun, while finally getting a clear, definitive look at our killer.
Me or Marty, we see cuffs or coffins, you're gonna end up in the dirt.
I got something coming for you, baby. Your psycho bit don't curb me, boy. You hear me?
When we approach episode 8 with the title Form and Void, this not only represents the most fundamental of the binary opposites we've been making drama of throughout the season, but it also represents the dilemma that Cole's walked for some time, which is why life instead of the alternative.
Still see things ever? It never stops, not really. What happened to my head is not something that gets better.
In that way, this is going to be the capper on our thematic, character, and investigative concerns through the series. This is the end.
Somebody ought to give you a good hosing. Well, reckon you'll keep another day. Be good, I'll bring you some more water around noon.
So far, every scene has been tied to Cole or Hart's perspective. For the first time, we take the killer's perspective.
Now that the interrogations are over, we've now completely moved into the present tense. So anything's allowed in terms of what we see and where we see it from.
So this is significant in that I'm pulling aside the curtain, and here's the monster. And this is who he is. I think he's more complicated and nuanced and tragically evil than a lot of the serial killers out there. If you notice their interactions, they relate to each other almost like children who've been left alone to play forever. I think it's really important what Childress says. You know, it's been weeks since I left my last sign. He wants this confrontation. And as he says, he believes this will lead to an ascension for him, wherein he is capable of a kind of transcendence that he believes can only occur through these sorts of sacrifices.
Don't move! On your knees, now.
No. The chase for Childress eventually leads them into a series of tunnels, and we find what was a smaller scale articulation of the killer's psychotic mythology and mindscape is now writ large inside this space. I mean, the twig sculptures are now things you have to walk through.
Looking for one of the locations, we ran into this old pre-Civil War fort. It was all overgrown with vegetation, and thought that'd be really amazing if, you know, the Childress family were living by this coastal area and there was this old fort. They just made into their own sort of backwoods temple.
To your right, little priest.
Childress the whole time is goading Cole onward. He wants this. He's been begging for this confrontation.
I think Childress is definitely aware he's reaching his climax. You know, he's about to pass on to another plane. He's completely, I think, engrossed in the mythology he's created in his sort of splinter religion. He doesn't believe death is the end. So I don't think he has the same fear of it as you would think a killer would. He's not fighting for his life in the same way. When they finally get to that moment where Cole's on his own, Hart also, in part of his mind, knows that Cole would be perfectly willing to die. So I think part of him is to be there to prevent that from happening, and the other part is doing his job, making up for not getting the bad guy originally.
It seemed fitting to me at the very end that each man saves the other's life in a very decisive way.
Here! Here, we're here!
It's two men fighting for themselves and fighting for each other, right down to the finish.
It's just one story. The oldest. What's that? Light versus dark.
This is the place I knew we would see when I first started the scripts is the final hospital scene between Hart and Cole.
It's the story of two men who had these completely different versions of themselves 17 years earlier, and over the course of some of the largest events of their life are forced to reckon with them in a way that probably delivers them in the hands of a more honest sense of themselves.
And I believe what Cole articulates there is actually extraordinarily optimistic and not based in sentiment. It's based in physics. Optimism is no more necessarily an illusion than pessimism. And that's what Cole's admitting at the end in the only way he knows how.
Hey, camera rolling. Mark.
And action!
True Detective takes the form of a manhunt.
So it's more of a thriller than any kind of whodunit.
It's a very unique story, told in a very unique way.
I don't want to live in history. I don't want to know anything anymore.
It's not like anything I've read or done before.
It's really about two men and how they have to face who they are over the course of 17 years.
It's like you're watching a film, but it is episodic.
It's truly riveting. As a fan, as an actor, I want more.
You put a ceiling on your life because you won't change.
You are only as the Lord made you.
The solution was right under my nose, and I was watching everything else.
It was January the 3rd, 1995. I'd been on the job about 3 months till then.
The story begins in 1995 when Martin Hart and Rustin Cole, who were partners in state CID, catch the body of Dora Lang, which Vermilion Sheriff's Department has called them in to take.
You ever see something like this?
No, sir. During the course of the show, we kind of try to figure out who it was that killed Dora Lang, and it gets a lot more complicated than expected.
It's really the story of what happens in these two men's lives when they come together to solve this murder.
Our introduction to the series is our two guys in 2012 being interviewed about this murder.
So you want to talk the whole case through or just the end?
Whole story from your end, you don't mind. You know, like he said, files got ruined. Hurricane Rita.
What he didn't say is that this is about something else.
The narrative itself is the 2012 versions of Hart and Cole telling the story of their investigation of the murder of Dora Lang and Cole's later idea and obsession that there might be more people involved.
When we start looking down this road and start putting together the pieces of the puzzle, a lot of the things that we find, they aren't adding up.
His record, his reports, his stories, they don't add up. We come in to look at this case to see if we can get to the bottom of why it hadn't been solved correctly and see if we can find the actual serial murderer.
If this case has been reopened and he didn't get the guy, that's the main thing. He wants to know what they know so I can get back on the case and solve it myself.
Yeah, let me see what you got.
Well, let's hear your story first. See how it fit with what we got.
You're done, boss.
When you initially meet our characters together, there's quite a lot of butting heads. I'm a very sociable, gregarious person, and he is just the opposite.
Cole's a real loner. He's never seeking a relationship early on with Martin Hart. He's not even a guy who wants to have a conversation in the car.
Bring him in, Marty. Let's get a good look at him.
While they're very different on the page, I really believe they're both tortured, and I think that's what draws them to each other. I think that's what keeps them together for 17 years.
I said your life's in this man's hands, right? Of course you should meet the family.
The classic sort of buddy cop film is always based on conflict. Without conflict, you don't have drama.
One of the fundamental things I liked with Matthew and Woody is that these are men with children and wives, and they live with responsibility.
Watching Matthew and Woody work together, they certainly bring out the best in each other.
It's fun to watch them interact because they have a friendship outside of this friendship that they're portraying.
Matthew is a really good buddy of mine for a long time, so it's great to get to hang out with him on a daily basis. Time I think you hit a ceiling, you just keep raising the bar. You are like the Michael Jordan of being a son of a bitch.
Writing these actual scripts was very, very difficult. It was 550 pages total, written in about 3 months.
I was really gripped by the writing. I thought it was just as good as it gets.
I wrote the last 6 scripts after they had been cast and rewrote the first 2 to more fit into their voices.
You ever been hunting, Marty?
Yeah, 10-point buck year before last.
I'm not talking about sitting in a treehouse waiting to ambush a buck, come to sniff your gash bait. I'm talking about tracking.
Jesus, you're a prick.
Every time I read what came out of Rustin Cole's mouth, it turned me on. Everything had fangs to it.
I keep things separate. Like the way I can have just one beer without needing 20.
People incapable of guilt usually do have a good time.
One of the biggest things you're trying to figure out when you're directing on your own is, breaking down characters. So To have the writer on set to talk about character collectively with the actors is a huge resource.
That social enterprise has actually been, for me personally, as a guy who has spent a lot of time alone in a room typing on a keyboard, it's been fantastic.
I need something from you. Tonight, I need a good soldier.
The big scene tonight is following Matthew's character, Rust Cole, as he goes on a stash house raid with some Aryan bikers.
What the fuck you doing, man?
This is the moment in the series where I think so much cerebral tension has built up over the last 3.5 episodes that to see things just completely pop off, it's going to be great.
I like to do long takes. When I saw a moment in the story which is supposed to be a dangerous moment for Rustin's character, I thought it might be a nice moment to just do one long take.
Background and action.
As a director, it's a prize piece, it's a showpiece, it's taking the dare.
We had like a day and a half to rehearse it, which is not much when you've got fight sequences and effects and car stunts and helicopters and everything else.
That was a tiring night. By about take 9, Will Cole was not sprinting across those streets dragging Ginger, and that damn fence got higher and higher and higher every time we climbed it.
7.5 minute shot, it's supposed to be one take.
Everybody has to have these beats down locked. We had an extra stunt coordinator brought on, tons of stunt guys, so that the beats I had written not only had to be dramatized, but then expanded upon in certain moments. It is just an amazing amount of prep work.
If an AD's late on calling a cue for some extras, and you're 6 minutes into the take and everything else has been perfect, you gotta go back to start, you gotta cut it.
The idea is to just stay in the moment and live this 7 minutes of hell with Matthew's character.
Let's do it. Come on, let's go. Time now.
Y tus trailers. Visita mi canal.
What the fuck? Fucking knew it! I wish I could have done this from the start, you fucking moron.
Come on, man. Fuck. What the fuck are you doing, man?
Get the fuck!
Freeze. Who else in the house?
Nobody.
Okay, everyone else should move back past Video Village. Let's do our last looks. Let's get ready to shoot.
When your story is on the scale that we're telling this one on, then the world that it's set in becomes another character.
A lot of the buildings and topography, the swampy spookiness of the South is the backdrop that the story already fits in.
It's a really densely green sort of landscape mixed with the sort of industrial detritus of refineries and other industries. And that's all kind of part of the texture of our story. And I want to make sure we got all that.
Landscape is an important part of the story we're telling. And he's shot this amazing footage of South Louisiana that really nobody's ever seen before.
Nick is from these parts. He's from Louisiana, and we're here. We're shooting it here. It's really rooted in place, and I think that really makes it feel very real.
It's not New Orleans. It's not, it's not Bourbon Street. We're definitely in the sticks.
You listen on this roll, we've got frogs and cicadas in the background. They're part of our ambiance. Mother Nature is the queen. She is the ruler down here.
The first thing you have to contend with here is the weather. When you're out on location and the weather comes in, it can be daunting. The sky turns black and literally it can rain so hard you can't see 20 feet in front of you, which makes it difficult to not only shoot, but also to move equipment and manpower and get people out of the way of the weather.
Mainly the mud, because we're dealing with so much rain. And when you're hauling equipment in and out of places, even to get, 300 meters that way with a bunch of carts that tear up the ground that's supposed to look pristine because it's supposed to be untouched, makes it hard.
After you contend with the weather, you have the critters. We regularly employ wranglers that precede the cast and crew through the bush and catch anything that might be dangerous, such as cottonmouths, other poisonous snakes.
We had several adventures with wildlife. We pulled a 6-foot alligator out from where we were building. Our greensman did that.
Granted, we built the set in the bayou, so it was his set before it was ours, but a 6-foot alligator will definitely get your attention. Something I've never done in my career is we had birds of prey on set. We had an owl and a hawk purely to keep the mockingbirds at bay so we could film because they're very noisy.
2 cameras. A-Mark.
And the B-Mark.
We're shooting on 35mm film, so I think there's going to be a texture to it that's just going to bleed onto the screen.
We have reached the point where film's probably dead, but I wanted one last romance with film before forced to shoot digital forever. And every time you change a mag and stuff, you're like, I asked for this. I asked to shoot film. But I wouldn't have had it any other way.
I say stay 35. So okay. Keep a little more claustrophobic. Come up.
As an art director, and as all of us in the art department, we start pretty early on with the director and the writer, and we work with them to come up with the kind of physical concepts of what the show is going to look like.
Each set is its own sort of thing, so some we're looking for a location that exists and figure out how to modify that to tell the story that we need.
We were trying to find the perfect location for a remote burned church, and the spillway provided this amazing empty canvas where you have a lot of natural beauty, but it's also surrounded by refineries. So we put some roads in, and then we built a church from the ground up that actually looked like it had suffered from a serious fire.
Place is trashed.
We also built a mess shack. Again, we started with nothing. It was a construction site when we got there, so just sand on the ground.
We asked the people to stop mowing, and we sprinkled a little seed and added some of our own plants. In a very short period of time, there's plants knee height. It's pretty spectacular.
Part of the procedural nature is there's a lot of investigations of old case files. All those case files have to show crime scene photos, dead bodies.
We have created every single crime scene. So we've taken people and we've made them up to be dead with various strangulation, gunshot wounds, stab wounds.
Because it's 1995, we wanted to depict them as they were, so they're all taken on film and processed on film. There's no digital stills used until digital technology becomes part of the story.
All our photos, all our photo stock, our papers, everything that I've had to do, we've had to try and do it as period correct as possible.
Any of these look familiar to you?
Now that looked like something my old auntie taught us how to make when I was a tyke.
What are they?
Some folks call them bird traps. Old auntie told us that they were devil nets.
The killer leaves us calling cards, these little sculptures. They're sort of a signifier of a mood and a feeling of dread.
We kind of started with these ideas, passing ideas around about caging bird traps. And I think that the serial killer looked at his victims as the birds.
In some ways, they're almost like voodoo pieces that are very ominous.
I just created what I thought was beautiful. And then you take it out of my studio and put it into a context where the whole dynamic changes. So it's been very interesting that way.
Let's get these twig things bagged. Same with the crown.
A lot of the research we also did was in the history of rural Mardi Gras. We see these crowns in photographs from different time periods as part of these rural Mardi Gras traditions.
This is the original one for the original crime scene. This is what we find Dora with. I started dangling roots off the side, so the roots would be kind of in her hair.
The stuff was pretty amazing in terms of what it looked like. It's just creepy, you know. I'd never seen that kind of stuff before.
Just what is it you think we found, Mr. Cole?
Something deep and dark, detectives. Something deep and dark.
This story is really about something darker and deeper than a serial killer.
It's more of a manhunt for a creature out in the tall grass that you can't see.
We got a rabid dog out there, and we got to put him down.
You'll go on this journey with these characters and try to put the pieces together.
This is gonna happen again, or it's happened before.
You will meet some extraordinary characters.
You get to care about them, but you also get to be surprised about who they become.
The excitement of it is really going to come through.
Y tus trailers. Visita mi canal.
I'm what's called a pessimist.
Okay, what's that mean?
Means I'm bad at parties.
Let me tell you, you ain't great outside of parties either.
Rustin Cole in 95, he's not a man who does well dealing with civilization or the mendacities of civilization. The microcosm example of it is when he invites me over for dinner. Cole, the last thing in the world he wants to do is go, but he knows, man, I gotta try to engage with civilization. That's a nightmare for him.
Hey, Weed shows up at the door. He's dead drunk, and we're going to get somebody to call and make an excuse so that he can leave, and then get that person to call, and he doesn't leave.
So you need to go or what?
No, it's nothing. Can't wait till tomorrow.
And he just ends up staying. And so, in fact, I think my character is really frustrated that he's hanging around when he had his opportunity to go.
He had to talk to his wife and the kids. All of a sudden, it was nurturing me somehow, and I didn't expect it. But boy, once it started happening, I was feeling that part of that back into humanity, that particle that he hadn't felt in so long.
Marty, I saw your table in there. You fly fish?
A little bit.
He's trying to engage, say, maybe I can tap into that part of me that can at least subside in a normal civilization. And that's how I saw it.
Cole's outside. Does he know he's suspended?
Well, we started it with the dance. I played Rocky theme song as Woody approached from about 300 yards away, walking down this wide parking lot. And I was out in the middle of the parking lot, like, here's the ring, and all of a sudden he comes up and we start do-si-doing and dancing.
That was the best way to start that. If you're ever gonna do a fight scene, it's best to start with dancing with the person you're about to fight.
Yeah. Because the fight scene is a dance.
This is really well orchestrated.
Yeah, Norby and the guys worked. We'd been working on it for weeks with them. You know, different styles of fighting for both characters, and then, you know, and I got to settle it down and kind of take a respite, like out. You know, gonna take another punch, and you stayed. They had to drag you out.
Get him out! Come on, Mark!
You got your workout that day.
Oh yeah,
we both got to work out. He really got his workout
that day. I didn't think that they'd be able to drag me that easily.
They didn't either, and they didn't.
Sure did.
Well,
they grabbed me.
It got easier for him after take 6.
We ain't done here! Get him inside. We ain't done here!
I knew Woody was going to come that day, and there was part of him really looking forward to punching me and swinging at me and getting really, really angry. This is all beast mode rage, and yeah, McConaughey, I love you, but I'm going real hard. An uppercut's supposed to come by, and the best version of it, it's going to sell for the camera, just right. And the best version is where you might just feel a little wind on your face. I knew we might feel a little skin to skin from Woody's uppercut.
Might feel a little bone on the chin.
Might feel a little knuckle to the chin, and we did. It was expected.
It was expected. Yeah, I didn't even know I'd hit him the first time, and he was like, "Well, good one, yeah. Nice one, yeah."
Let me get this.
Then we
get that little bone marrow and then put the food back on. Yeah, okay.
Be honest, and I don't.
Marty, listen, man.
I just need her to give me another shot.
How funny is the bar scene where it's after it gets you from the hospital?
If I could just get another shot.
Listen, can I tell you something? Yeah, this is none of my business. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
It's none of my business.
Yeah, I like that. That was one we were supposed to shoot that scene, and I got into a bike accident.
Yeah,
coming to work. I was actually at work. I came
showed
down
up
off
to
the
set,
levee,
but
and
he entered set face first on the gravel. He didn't walk on his feet.
Hell of a bedside manner you got, Russ.
You know, being stupid is different than gone and sick, and this is a bar, not a fucking bedside.
We didn't shoot that day, and I'm glad, because that scene, I think, is better for having waited.
Yeah,
and there were some changes that took place in the scene, too. Time I think you hit a ceiling, you just keep raising the bar. You were like the Michael Jordan of being a son of a bitch. gigantic undertaking. Definitely the biggest, just in terms of scope, the biggest project I've been involved with.
As a production, it was a long shoot. The 15, 16, 17-hour nights were adding up. So there were enough, you're with somebody 6 months, there's enough time for people to blow fuses, there's enough time to get frustrated and have to back off. So the fatigue set in.
You know what it's like being your partner? Huh? Fuck you.
Oh, buddy, without me, there is no you.
And it was a great experience because I felt like we were doing something that had integrity and depth and passion, and it has to do with the case, of course, but it has to do with the relationship between these two complicated men. You know the real difference between you and me?
Denial.
The difference is you are incapable of admitting doubt. Now that sounds like denial to me.
I doubt that. After we meet at the road and go back, you had a different fang in the back of your mouth.
If you were drowning, I'd throw you a fucking barbell. Why would I ever help you?
You had a certain weight to you, W-E-I-G-H-T, coming in for that part of Marty towards Rush that I was like, there we go. One of my favorite things that you do
Visita mi canal.
when you go to that place. I really like that.
Because you have a debt. What's that mean? I have a debt.
You wasn't just pissed at Rush. You were mad. You were pissed at me too. And I wasn't gonna check.
It wasn't like you were you were Rust.
Well,
it's like I'm dealing with Rust all the time.
Hey, buddy.
Senor, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
It was obviously an enormous plum, I think, for our series to get you doing the music for it and scoring it. And I guess one of the places for us to begin is maybe you could speak towards what in the material spoke to you and how that guided your musical creation.
Well, the first thing, 4 scripts came at once, which was about, I don't know, 300 pages or something like that.
Yeah.
I read them and it was like a book. I had to know what happened, so I had to get the next 4 scripts. Like, it was extraordinary to read a script that had long speeches in it. It read like a novel, and it also read like a movie, except it was a television show. It was very interesting.
It read like neither of the things it was supposed to be.
And the next interesting step was talking to you guys, and you guys saying you didn't want to do a typical Louisiana Cajun music score or, you know, sound, because, and that would not have been nearly as intriguing as the idea of creating an alternate reality where it's not a kind of Louisiana we've heard before. So all this stuff tends to come from Louisiana, but from sideways, you know.
Yeah, it seems to me it comes more from the psychology of the place rather than its exact musical history. And that's exactly what we were hoping for. I find so many times in the actual episodes, the emotional communication that's happening between characters is enhanced by a very subtle score behind things. And I don't think many people have gotten to see that from you.
I had my time where I wondered if this was all in my head. That time passed.
Really? What happened to Billy Lee Tuttle?
It's something you're gonna have to look at. No other way around it.
It's interesting that you bring up the idea of a sort of Louisiana of the mind, right?
Right.
As opposed to the historical musical scene of Louisiana, which none of us wanted to do.
Right.
And that can bring up, you know, this idea of anachronisms and things like that. And like, I think I read some comment somewhere that, you know, struck me as completely ridiculous that KRS-One would not be playing in a South Louisiana strip club.
Cocaine business controls America. Ganja business controls America.
For a man who was in Louisiana in 1995 and worked at a strip club, there's no political statement behind the music that plays for girls to dance to at strip clubs. But that's the kind of comment that I wonder if you have anything to say to that.
Of course, it's completely plausible that the DJ in Louisiana in 1995 would have heard illegal business. But more than that, it was the right song to play in that scene. We tried a lot of songs to play in that scene.
I remember.
And when that one went in there, everyone said, oh, there it is.
Yep.
It showed up.
It's appropriate for a true detective in 2014, and the story we're telling.
He's conflict-oriented, so when I deny him small arguments, it builds up his energy.
Wow. Yeah. Are you ever a match for this dude?
I've read some interesting commentary about this show from the point of view of some women. There's a test about the way women are treated. They have to relate to each other. I can't remember the name of the test, but it's an interesting test. Anyway, I thought you should be given the chance to represent how you actually feel about women.
Well, you know, I think if that's a deficiency in the show, I can only say that that deficiency is inherent in its form. Because the form of this show is a close point of view, right? So you have 2 points of view, and it's Russ Cole's point of view or Martin Hart's point of view, and that's it. We don't go into other characters' points of view. We don't go into Maggie's point of view if she's not with Cole or Hart.
That's right.
And now, if you can find me a male character who's treated with great depth and intelligence and given his due, who's not Hart and Cole, let me know.
It's my bad, boys. Maybe we got started on the wrong foot there.
To me, these men are heroes. These men are real men that do bad things and do the best they can, and they're living by their own codes as best they can. But the thing they do, they confront outrageous evil head on, face to face. They look right into the skull of the most hideous evil imaginable and deal with it. That's heroic.
To me, Cole more than Hart, but both of them are heroic.
Right.
And now, both of them are incredibly flawed as men in society, right? Like Hart might be a bad husband and father. Cole might be a terrible friend and colleague in some respects. But they both behave with bravery and with honor.
Yeah.
In moments where many of us might not.
Wires back there, clearing's around mine. All right. How you want to do it? You go back, call it in. I'll wait here. Do it now, Marty. You ain't doing this without me.
One of the neat things about episode 5 to me is that Cole, up to that point, has been the guy who has represented a black and white morality. But in episode 5, it's Hart, the man who has offered nothing but gray areas of morality, who administers absolute justice to Reggie Ledoux by executing it. Boom. Now, it's an interesting thing to me that through episode 4 and episode 5, in none of the action scenes does Cole fire a gun.
Right.
Even though he's supposed to be the most dangerous man in the scripts, and he is.
Yeah, right.
He only fires a gun when all the danger's passed and he's unloading that AK. For me, he's what Huck Finn becomes in the 21st century. You know? You remember Huckleberry Finn when he could free slave Jim, but everything he's been taught tells him that if I free this man, I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
I'm going to burn in hell forever.
Yeah.
And Huck Finn frees his friend, the slave, and Huck says, basically, fuck it, I'll go to hell.
Yeah.
And that's Rust.
You wonder ever you're a bad man?
No, I don't wonder, Marty.
You ever wonder if you're a bad man? No, I don't wonder.
Yeah.
You know, not saying like, no, I don't think I'm a bad man. No, I don't wonder about it.
I know
I'm a bad man.
Yeah.
But I'm better than the other bad men.
Yeah, I didn't rip
At least
anybody's face off.
I'm on this side of the line.
Right.
And the other bad men are on that side of the line.
No, he's a good man, actually. He's a good bad man.
World needs bad men. We keep the other bad men from the door.
They are, despite their sins, incorruptible.
Yeah, that's right. They, listen, I wouldn't go into that house where that woman was, that sister, half-sister. I would not go in there.
You think I'd walk in that maze full of twig sculptures?
No, I wouldn't go in there, man.
No.
So, we can all sit back anonymously and throw rocks and say, oh, yeah, they're not heroes. We have to deal with the reality of who these guys,
I even heard something that, like, they were bad cops because they're not solving this as fast as The Mentalist or somebody would solve it, And I'm like...
Well, you're supposed to solve it in an episode.
Yeah, I was like, what do you guys think the Louisiana State Police is... do you think, this is 1995, you think they've seen Seven? You think they've watched CSI? You think CSI is real?
Marty. This is the place.
The ending of the show, more than anything for me, is about catharsis. We've taken you on this 8 hours, and I want you to experience as an audience a release of everything. How did you interpret that release?
These two guys that I really loved both of these guys. And seeing the kind of gauntlet they were willing to run, the kind of hell they were really willing to run into to find that catharsis, to reach that catharsis. And there was no other way they were going to get there than to stare straight into the skull.
We left something undone. We gotta fix it. Man remembers his debts.
And that to me is a heroic moment, you know, that they decided they had a debt.
Right.
And they didn't flinch from that debt.
There was a moment, I know, when I was under in the dark or something. I could feel, man. I knew my daughter waited for me there. So clear. I could feel her. And all I had to do was let go. And I did.
He moves about 5 inches on the personality meter, right? But where he moves to is a place where for the first time he's allowed to grieve.
Then I woke up.
When you see Matthew kill that scene with his tears and his raw emotion, think about the last time Russ Cole cried, if ever. Ever.
Right.
Right. This is a man who's probably been waiting his whole life to cry.
I tell you, Marty, I've been up in that room looking out those windows every night here, and just thinking, it's just one story. The oldest.
What's that?
Light versus dark.
Appears to me that the dark has a lot more territory.
In that final metaphor, it's an earnest urge to merge the secular with the sacred.
Yeah, I hear that.
And, you know, there was darkness, and the Lord said unto the darkness, let there be light. Is someone struggling, not even struggling, just wondering?
Yeah.
Is there some kind of metaphor that takes it all in?
Yeah.
Well, what's the story about it? It's very basal level. Light versus dark. And then when you consider, well, wait a minute, once upon a time it was all a void. And now there's lights exploding everywhere.
Yeah.
It's almost full, you know, and they just keep coming, these stars, they just keep coming.
You know, you're looking at her on the sky thing.
How's that?
Well, once there was only dark. When you ask any lights winning.
I did want to touch on that though, because I wasn't sure it'd make sense to a lot of people, and it might not.
Well, it's a beautiful part of the fabric of the whole play.
Thank you.
And you know, I must say, since we're here at the end, it's so beautiful that it ends like a novel. You know, there's no feeling in the world like getting to the end of a good book when the writer just nails it for you and wraps it up, and you read the last few words.
Oh, thanks.
And this does that. One of the problems of serialized storytelling on television is you do a series and you have a first act, a second act, and a third act, and then if the series gets picked back up, the third act goes on.
We don't have a third act. You have a second act that goes on interminably.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to people being able to sit down and watch it over a weekend, you know, because it actually does have a true ending.
Thanks. I'd really like to talk to you about the final song that ends the series, because it's an original T-Bone Burnett song. And as a writer and a poet, I thought the lyrics were incredibly beautiful.
The emptiness that we confess in the dimmest hour of day. In a town, they make us sound like the low sad moan of brave.
Growing out of our discussions of the show and the country and the story we were telling, this song suddenly appeared. And then this music grew out of the score, really, this theme, the main theme of True Detective. That it grew out of that and this psychosphere theme that we had sort of merged into the Angry River. Have you ever heard this phrase before?
I haven't, and I thought it was one of the most perfect Gothic expressions I'd heard.
That's what I thought. Well, I think there was a children's book, but when I heard the phrase Angry River, it meant something completely different to me.
Yeah.
And it certainly has meaning when you put it into this play and into Louisiana. And
well, I thought it was an American classic.
As far as the music goes, it has very much been a collaboration among all of us, but with you and Matthew too.
Matthew suggested a lot of good music.
Yeah, he really did.
And you know from my scripts, I called a ton of music, but it was never meant to be like you have to use this.
But it was great, so we did.
Well, I just knew we were speaking the same language.
There was a reason that song's there.
Yeah, and like it doesn't need to be this song, but there's something this song does that you can tap into.
That's right. But so much of it I was just thrilled with. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is, your music is one of the main leads of the show, and I consider it as essential a part of the vocabulary of True Detective as my writing, at least.
Oh,
so
man,
thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
You're the greatest. Thank you, Spank.
Thank you.